Getting the 80-20 rule all wrong cost me thousands of dollars. I only realized yesterday what the missing piece was. You know that 80-20 rule, right? I got it all wrong. I thought it was about 20% of the work bringing in 80% of the money. It could be, but it goes deeper than that. I found out yesterday because I was writing about the 80-20 rule. Something in its history made me go, wow, I've missed this important word the whole time. And now, looking at the Pareto principle this way will change my whole strategy. What exactly is the 80-20 rule? The 80-20 rule is really weird, but I see it being true again and again. You may know it under the name Pareto principle, and that's because of its history. Vilfredo Pareto, from 1848 to 1923, an Italian polymath, noticed that approximately 80% of Italy's land was owned by 20% of the population. And in 1941, Joseph M. Juran, an American engineer, discovered that this worked and thought, I wonder if that applies to other areas too. He went ahead and found that roughly 80% of problems come from 20% of the causes. When I read that, I went, duh, that was what I was missing. I had focused on 80% of something and 20% of something else. That will often work, but in my case, the keyword was problems. Juran didn't mention something, he said problems. That was the word I was missing. Does it matter? Something, problems, potato, right? Yes, it mattered, because while I was trying to add more work on what I thought would bring in more money, my problems were left unsolved. That was wrong. I should have simply made a list of my biggest problems. Then I should have asked what was causing each of them. And suddenly I could see it. There was a pattern. A surprisingly small number of causes were behind most of my problems. For example, I kept looking for ways to make more sales to the people who are already on my list. New products, new offers, new promotions. But that wasn't my biggest problem. My email lists were too small. That was the real problem. I could keep squeezing harder and harder to make more money from the same few hundred people, or I could work on the cause of the problem and bring more people into my world. How much money had I lost by spending years solving the wrong problem? Thousands of dollars, easily. I hadn't identified the biggest cause behind my problems until now. My lists were too small. That was where I needed to put most of my time and energy. This discovery changed my whole strategy. Now I'm no longer working towards a distant goal. Every day I'm working on a cause behind most of my problems, and I'm closing the gap fast. Try it. Write down the problems in your business or your life. Then ask, what few causes are creating most of these? Because finding your 20% isn't nearly as useful until you know which 80% you are trying to fix. One of the ways I'm fixing my small list problem is by getting more people to discover my work without spending all day on promotion. I do that by publishing content on Medium and Substack and pointing readers to either bunkers, if they are fiction writers, or my ebook Make $10 Today, if they're interested in making money online. And I'll link to both in the description of this video. In fact, that's exactly what this video is doing and the articles that I posted today.